I will be ranking every MCU Disney Plus show. Keep in mind, I will only be ranking the Disney Plus originals, so don't expect to see any of the older shows like Punisher, the OG Daredevil, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., etc. Now let's get into the video. Starting off with one of the first MCU shows to air on Disney Plus, WandaVision. In my opinion, this is a top 3 Marvel show. I remember the feeling at the end of each episode wondering what was going to happen next. It was super entertaining, but gave off some eerie vibes because Wanda was using her dead husband's corpse and created an entire world of illusion just to cope with his death. It was kind of weird and unsettling, but a very good show. I think there's no other place but S tier for this one. Now moving on to my favorite MCU TV show, Loki. The redemption arc of Loki and the story of this show is amazing. I feel like this show has the most impact on the theatrical MCU. It was headed to set up the Kang Dynasty movie, but we all know what happened with that. Anyways, I love that Marvel gave us more of Loki. There was so much emotion in this show, ranging from the music all the way to the characters and the story. Overall, great TV show. Once again, no other place but S tier for this one. Now for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I feel like this show is sort of controversial. Some people seem to really like it and others hate it. Those who hate it think it's lackluster and also a little bit too woke. I personally don't mind the show because I like the characters and I like the action sequences that we got. It's definitely not the best Marvel TV show, but I think it's far from the worst, which is why I'm putting it in B tier. Now for Moon Knight, another one of my favorites. I really like this character, and I really like what Marvel did with him in the TV show. It was about time that Marvel added a new hero to the main storyline. At the end of Season 1, there was a setup for Season 2, but that was like 4 years ago, and we haven't gotten anything since. And a lot of people are speculating if he's going to be a part of the main Avengers or not. Overall, I really like the character, and I really like the TV show. Marvel gave us a different character with different personalities, and it was something that we hadn't seen before in the MCU. Moon Knight is going in A tier. Moving on to What If. When this show was first announced, people were going crazy over it because of all the possibilities that could come with it. A fan favorite that we still haven't gotten yet was what if the other half got snapped in Infinity War? But instead, they chose to do some other things that not a lot of people were happy about. But I personally like the show. I really like the animation and the story. The voice acting is pretty good, and I really like that the Watcher is being added to more and more Marvel projects. Season 1 of this show was probably the strongest, but 2 and 3 were still fairly good in my opinion. It's an overall solid show, which is why I think it belongs in A tier. Next up on the list is Hawkeye. It was great to finally see him get his own project, and in my opinion, it did not disappoint. We got the addition of Kate Bishop, who will play a major role in the Young Avengers in upcoming movies. This show was really fun to watch, and it's one of my favorites, which is why I think it belongs in A tier. Next up is Miss Marvel. This might be a hot take, but I'm not really a big fan of this show. Don't get me wrong, it's a well-produced show, but I'm obviously not the demographic that this show was aiming for. I don't have anything against this show. I think it's still a solid project, and I know lots of you guys are fans of the show. I just couldn't really relate to it, and there were some cringe-worthy moments in there as well, which is why I have to put it in C tier. Next up is Am Groot. This technically wasn't a full-fledged TV series. Instead, it was comprised of multiple shorts. Don't get me wrong, I love Baby Groot, but I didn't really find the show that interesting, and I found it boring at times, which is why I'm putting it in C tier. Next up is She-Hulk. All I have to say about this show is yikes. This is hands down one of the worst, if not the worst, Marvel projects ever produced. I'm not going to go super in-depth of what I think because most of you guys already think the same thing. All I'm going to say is it's a disgrace to Marvel. You all saw this coming. It's going in F tier. Now moving on to Echo. This show released simultaneously on Disney Plus and Hulu, so I'm counting it as a Disney Plus Marvel show. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Echo and I like her character, but the show just wasn't that good and it wasn't appealing to me. I honestly found it boring at times. So with that being said, I'm putting it in C tier. Next up is Secret Invasion. Man, I had such high hopes for this show, but I hated the direction they took. It was just so disappointing. That's honestly all I have to say about this one. And without a doubt, Secret Invasion is going in F tier. Next up is X-Men 97. I feel like this was a breath of fresh air for Marvel, and was a faithful continuation of the older X-Men show. The animation was great, and it really hit you with some nostalgia. In my opinion, this might be one of Marvel's best TV shows, and it was well received by pretty much everybody. X-Men 97 is S tier. Moving on to Agatha All Along. At the end of WandaVision, they were sort of setting up an Agatha TV show, and I was really looking forward to it. But I think Marvel dropped the ball with this one. It was a good idea, but the execution, the writing, and the dialogue was just horrible. It was just too predictable, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. I'm sorry, but I have to put this one in F tier. Next up is Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And not gonna lie, before this show came out, I wasn't looking forward to it, and I thought it was gonna suck. But I was pleasantly surprised. This is a pretty solid Spider-Man show. The animation took some getting used to, but it actually turned out pretty well. I like some of the characters that they introduced, and like I said earlier, overall, it's a pretty solid kids show. And I'd have to say this is one of the better Spider-Man animated shows. With that being said, I'm putting it in B tier. And last but not least, we have Daredevil Born Again. This is the newest and most recent Marvel TV show. At the time of recording this, only 2 episodes have aired. So far, I think the show is decent. It's obviously nothing compared to the OG Netflix show, but I think Marvel are actually doing a great job with Daredevil. One thing I don't like is the graininess of the picture. It kind of takes away that charm that we have from the OG Daredevil show. Other than that, I think it's pretty solid. And I can't make my final decision on the show because only 2 episodes have been released. And with that being said, I'm going to put it at B tier. So here is the final tier list. It's kind of funny how each of the tiers have 3 shows in them. I didn't even intentionally do that. But anyways, let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for tuning in. Peace out.